So a bit more positive news from a Supreme Court ruling, which basically rejected Trump's efforts to end the DACA program, which is, I believe, stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, something like that. Don't quote me on that. This is from Julie Conley, staff writer at Common Dreams. Immigrant rights advocates celebrated a major victory Thursday morning as the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration cannot end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which has allowed nearly 800,000 young undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers to live and work in the United States. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's four liberal-leaning justices, it's close, in the 5-4 decision, ruling that the Trump administration had not given sufficient justification for ending the Obama-era DACA program, under which about 27,000 young immigrants have worked as frontline healthcare workers during the coronavirus pandemic. Again, the whole justification for this, they're not going to say it out loud, but it's the deeply held, racism, white supremacy, and xenophobia, anti-immigrant rhetoric that the Trump administration has as one of their kind of guiding values, and it motivates a lot of their base as well. Unfortunately, that it was just a signal to their base. Yeah, here you go. We don't want these people in our country anymore, even though they're a huge benefit to it. We got to pander to our racist base. Termination of DACA during this national health emergency would be catastrophic, immigration lawyers argued in court filings. In the decision, Roberts wrote that the court had not decided whether DACA or its rescission are sound policies, instead addressing only... that's really where they went. Of course it's not sound policy. It's hugely racist, hugely xenophobic, hugely disgusting and troubling that we're singling out, these people, these kids, when they're brought to the United States, and where Trump's trying to, deport them, kick them out, demonize them, criminalize them, which will, incite further violence and demonization and oppression of already a marginalized, group, immigrants in our country. Hugely, hugely disgusting. Here, the agency failed to consider the conspicuous issues of whether to retain forbearance and what, if anything, to do about the hardship to DACA recipients, Roberts wrote. That dual failure raises doubts about whether the agency appreciated the scope of its discretion or exercised that discretion in regional. Of course they didn't. Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, they don't give a shit about these people, okay? That's why they're doing this. It's a totally inhumane and unjust policy trying to rescind DACA. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, however, objected to Roberts' purely technical analysis of the case, directly addressing President Trump's long record of racist statements and policies regarding immigration. Exactly. Thank you, Justice Sotomayor, for pointing out the fairly obvious to Roberts of why the Trump administration was proposing rescinding DACA. Trump's comparison of undocumented immigrants to animals, for example, creates the strong perception that the rescission decision was contaminated by impermissible discriminatory animus. Sotomayor wrote, I would not so readily dismiss the allegation that an executive decision disproportionately harms the same racial group that the president has branded as less desirable mere months ago. Immigrant-led youth network United We Dream called the ruling a testament to our power as immigrant young people, and the allies have been fighting to protect DACA from relentless attacks from the Trump administration since he was elected. While this win will bring temporary relief to immigrant youth and our families who have been living in limbo since Trump ended DACA in 2017, our fight is not done, said Gracia Martinez Rosas, a DACA recipient and deputy executive director of the group. We know that the police and the deportation force of ICE and CBT were born of white supremacy, and all anti-blackness must be defunded. Preach. That's 100. DACA was possible because immigrant youth imagined, and demanded it. Today's ruling is another reminder that when people directly impacted or those pushing for solutions, that's when transformational change happened. That's a super, super good point. On social media, immigrant rights groups and lawmakers applauded the ruling. Let's see what else we have here. Demand Justice noted that the DACA decision comes days after the Supreme Court ruled, this was also earlier this week, ruled that the LGBTQ Americans are protected from workplace discrimination under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On that same day, I believe they also ruled to allow some type of oil or natural gas pipeline, some type of fossil fuel pipeline to run like near or under where the Appalachian Trail is. So not all the rulings this week from the Supreme Court have been good, but those two, obviously, this one for DACA and for the LGBTQ community has been positive. The credit for saving DACA belongs to the dreamers and allies who built a movement so powerful not even John Roberts could ignore it. Over the past week, the LGBTQ plus and immigrant rights communities have shown that activism matters and that the Supreme Court is not immune to public pressure, said Executive Director Brian Fallon. John Roberts may have been the swing vote in this particular case, but he is no savior. He simply recognizes that the court standings with the public is in mortal danger if it races too quickly to impose a right-wing agenda that flouts both the rule of law and public opinion. The Trump administration could feasibly make another attempt to dismantle the DACA program, threatening recipients, 90% of whom work in the U.S. and many of whom have not been in their native countries in decades, with deportation. And Trump, however, represents a minority of Americans who believe that the program should be ended. A poll taken by a Pew Research Center earlier this month showed that 74% of Americans believe Dreamers should have permanent legal status, including 54% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independent voters. Wow. Following the ruling, advocates vowed to fight any further attacks, as they should. So, I mean, good news, but again, it wouldn't be surprising if Trump tries to ratchet up his attacks on the immigrant community. And again, just because, majority of the U.S. supports it doesn't mean he's not going to try to further demonize or attack this group, because, it's like majority of people in the U.S. want to legalize weed, want a legal wage, want money out of politics, want universal health care. Politicians aren't fighting for that, so we'll see. But good news. Peace. Much love.